All right, we'll call the August 2nd Site Plan Review Technical Advisory Committee meeting to order. First item of business is approval of minutes from July 5th. Are there any?
Move to approve.
All right, move. We have a new minutes taker, so I'm gonna have to identify the motion maker. Eric Eby, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Nick. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Second item is the approval of minutes from the July 14th site walk at 212, 214, and 216 Woodbury Avenue.
Move to approve.
Move to approve from Pat. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Shanti. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain since I wasn't there. On to old business. We have 375 Banfield has requested to postpone. That's item A. Also item D and E for 212, 214, and 216 Woodbury Avenue. They have also requested to postpone, so those will not be heard today. That brings us to item B, the request of Port Harbor Land LLC owner and applicant for property located at 2 Russell Street, requesting lot line revision approval to adjust the boundary lines on 3 lots to create 1 lot with 18,237 square feet of lot area, 1 lot with 52,651 square feet of lot area, and 1 lot with 19,141 square feet of lot area. Said properties are located on Assessor Map 118, Lot 28, Map 124, Lot 12, and Map 125, Lot 21, and lie within the Character District 5, North End Incentive Overlay District, Historic District, and Downtown Overlay District. In addition, item C is the request of Port Harbor Land LLC for property located at 2 Russell, requesting site plan approval for the construction of 84 residential units, commercial space, and parking in 3 buildings, with associated community space, paving, utilities, landscaping, and other site improvements, including 3 proposed land transfers to allow the realignment of Russell Street and Deer Street intersection, and for the city's future construction of a roundabout at Russell Street and Market Street. Land transfer area 1 is proposed from map 119 lot 4 to the city of Portsmouth. Land transfer areas 2 and 3 are from map 119 lot 1-1C to the city of Portsmouth. They are also seeking a conditional use permit approval to provide 343 parking spaces on separate lots, where 341 spaces are required as permitted under section 10.1112.62 of the zoning ordinance, and a conditional use permit to allow a 40,000 square foot building footprint within the CD5 as permitted under section 10.5A 43.43 of the zoning ordinance. Said properties are located on Assessor Map 118 lot 28, Map 124 lot 12, Map 125 lot 21, Map 119 lot 4, and Map 119 lot 1-1C, and lie within the CD5, North End Incentive Overlay, Historic District, and Downtown Overlay Districts. Take it away.
Thanks, Peter.
Yep.
Neil Hansen with Tyne Bond. Also here up at the table with me is Bob Eulig, landscape architect from Hellerson Tyne Bond. Patrick Kermans from Tyne Bond is also here, along with Ryan Plummer from 2 International Group. So we were here last back in June with our first meeting with this committee. We then postponed the July meeting in order to receive and address the peer review comments for stormwater, as well as the traffic peer review comments that we just sent out just prior to this meeting. In your packets for this, we had submitted revised copies of all the information that we'd previously submitted, as well as a response to comments from the first round of TAC comments, as well as our peer review response letter for the stormwater. So I just want to touch on one of the larger changes to the plan since that first meeting came out of that stormwater peer review, and has to do with a significant increase to the amount of on-site stormwater detention that we added to the site. Based on one of the comments we had received in that peer review about confirming capacity of the city's stormwater system, and then a site walk that we were out with Dave looking at the utilities, it was confirmed that a large portion of that existing parking lot just sheet flows directly to the railroad and never actually makes it into the city's stormwater system. So we revised our existing conditions model to account for that, and then added additional detention and revisions to our post-development conditions to account for that shifting of watershed areas from sheet flowing off-site to being put into the city's stormwater system, so that we weren't increasing flow rates to the city system. So those are kind of the main changes, or the biggest change that we had made. We then received additional comments last night, and unless there's anything we want to discuss further from the previous round of comments, I'll start going through these.
Yeah, go ahead and
All right.
start going through these. Yeah.
So comment one, identify loading zones and expected sizes and frequency of delivery trucks. Include delivery truck turning template for turns onto Green Street. So primarily, with these being for sale units, we expect mostly we'll be dealing with, FedEx, UPS, that sort of stuff is the most regular sort of deliveries. The thoughts would be, moving trucks could utilize the driveway, back into the driveway between buildings 2 and 3. There'd still be enough room there for cars to get around, though we're entering, it's a private garage, so it's not going to be a heavy use area, and being that these would be for sale units, the frequency of moving trucks would be pretty small once the buildings were first occupied. Then deliveries for any of the retail spaces at this time, we're anticipating those would be of limited frequency, and they would be done off of Russell Street. Solid waste disposal locations and truck route to remove. So right now the plan is to have trash storage internal to likely building 2, somewhere within the parking garage, and have rollout bins for pickup along the rear access drive. Size of domestic and fire water services. So those are still to be determined. The MEP is working on that. And that will just have to be continually coordinated with DPW as those are sized. Which ties into comment number 4, DPW requires calculations for proposed water usage, proposed sewer use, and capacity for each building. So as I just stated, that's being looked at now by the project MEP for water usage. The sewer use will be part of the NHDS sewer connection permit, which gets reviewed and approved by DPW prior to submission from the state. So that's when we will calculate the sewer usage for each of these buildings. Confirm enhanced stormwater treatment will be achieved per updated Portsmouth stormwater regulations. So we have looked at this as part of our initial design process, and then again during the peer review response process. The stormwater treatment systems that we have proposed for the site are the jellyfish filters, which meet the treatment requirements of the Portsmouth regulations, as well as the site also meets the redevelopment treatment requirements that are within the city's stormwater regulations, and all that was articulated in the stormwater peer review response. Comment 6, consider widening Green at Russell intersection for trucks turning out of development onto Green, possible median island to enhance pedestrian crossing. Trucks turning enter the opposing lane during turn. So we're fine. We're happy to take another look at that intersection, potentially increase the radius of Green Street, and then also the radius is tying from Green into Russell. I think that ties back into looking at some of the additional turning templates out of that driveway. We are not in favor of adding a median, but we are happy to look at revising the alignment to make that work better. Comment 7, DPW needs to review responses to peer review comments on traffic study. So as I mentioned in my intro, we just finished that this morning and sent that out this afternoon. So we understand the city and the peer reviewer will need to review our responses, and we'd be open to having any follow-up with that as a stipulation to be completed prior to attending planning board. Comment 8, remove off-site paved areas associated with the roundabout from the community space calculations. So at this time, we had included those as part of those calculations. The way we had been looking at it is that if the city wasn't to be building that roundabout, that land would be used for the park and would be part of the community space. and that in order to build the roundabout, the land transfer is required to the city for that, so that that land is still being used as a public benefit, which is why we had included in the community space calculations. Comment number 9, please reformat the community space calculations to clearly show the required and proposed calculations per lot. So we did include that breakdown on the overall site plan, which is sheet C102. We were happy to add that to the community space exhibit as well for consistency, and if there's any additional modifications that you would like to see to that to make it any clearer than it currently is, we'd be happy to make those as well. Comment number 10 is please revise map and lot numbers to be consistent and accurate. Map 119 lot 4 has been mislabeled in various areas. So I did a quick run through the submission package, and I did find that lot was mislabeled on the lot line revision plan. In my quick review this morning, I didn't see any other location, but we will certainly look through all of our submitted materials and make sure that that is corrected for our submission to the planning board. Comment 11, it appears there are multiple easements to be granted between the lots. However, the lots are under common ownership. How does the applicant propose to overcome the doctrine of merger? So the applicant's council has reviewed our proposed easements and lot line adjustments, and at this time is comfortable with what we were proposing. If there's any additional follow-up that needs to be done between the applicant's council and city legal, we're happy to do that. Comment number 12, 2 portions of the wide pedestrian sidewalk community space easements do not appear to be 10 feet wide throughout. Please confirm that all sections conform to the zoning ordinance requirements. So we took another look at this, and the way the ordinance is written is it says the sidewalk needs to be a minimum of 10 feet in width. The sidewalks for this project are a minimum of 12 feet along Maplewood, and then a minimum of 14 for the remainder of the site. The community space, wide sidewalk community space easements are included as the portion between the facade of the building and the right-of-way, which is consistent with how we have calculated this for past approved projects in the downtown. The next 3 are to be prior to planning board approval. 13, provide backup information on deeded parking spaces. 14 and 15 are working with DPW to determine fair share contributions for Maplewood Ave drainage and Maplewood Ave intersection and traffic improvements. We weren't sure if that second one was supposed to be related to the Market Street intersection as opposed to Maplewood, but either way, we're happy to work with the city and DPW to determine those fair share contributions that will be required as part of this project. The next 2 are listed as prior to construction. 16, address the need and potential need for permits, including but limited to flagging, blasting, stormwater discharge, temporary dewatering, and temporary construction permits. We acknowledge we will need all of those prior to construction, as well as alteration of terrain and sewer connection through NHDES, as well as a EPA NOI, which also includes preparing a SWIP. And then 17, project will require a construction phasing plan, and we acknowledge that. And we had envisioned this as being part of the CMMP process, but we're happy to hear any other input from TAC on the timing of when that would need to be completed. And then post-construction, number 18, applicant must agree to add note to plans to conduct post-construction video of sewer and drain on Deer, Maple, and Russell, and we are happy to add that note to the plans. And that was the list of comments, and happy to take any more or discuss any of these further.
Any follow-up comments from TAC?
The comment about the sidewalk widths, it looks like on Maplewood, it's only a 6-foot wide sidewalk. You said it was a 10-foot?
It's 12. I think there's a dimension on the plans. It's from the property line to the face of the building, which makes that a little confusing. So we can certainly clean that up and make sure that width is clearly labeled.
Because it looks like, so are you counting the tree,
Yeah, it must
we use tree pits then as part of the sidewalk?
Yes. The way the definition of sidewalk is written, it includes street trees and street furniture.
Regarding the community space calculations, we do see those on C-102. There are some blank sections that weren't really clear to us about if you go to that community space table, and we were just not real clear about proposed, some of the column of proposed was empty, we just wanted to have that.
Okay, we can take another
Yeah,
look at
yeah.
kind of cleaning that
I know
up
that you
and-
provided it there, and then I know that there was also comment about removing off-site paved areas associated with the roundabout. I understand your logic, and I think it makes sense, but I think it might be a little confusing to, as they review it, and that's part of the reason for our comment. It's, I
Okay.
understand your logic, and you can maybe label it a different way, but I think it might be a little confusing as presented.
Okay.
That was the reason for the comment.
Yeah, the proposed, there's a couple blanks under map 118 lot 28, because
Right.
we have those two different, we have the development lot area and then the off-site, the park area, which are listed separately and then added together.
Oh, I see.
We can try and clean that up to make that a little bit easier to follow. And then I think also adding it to the exhibit where they're both side by side will also kind of help
That would help.
make that
I think
connection.
I think you're over your required amount anyway.
We
so,
are, yeah. Yeah, because lots 125, lot 21, and 124-12, we only need the 20% for the north end incentive, and then the 30% for the increased building footprint on 118-28. But we have over 30% for all three lots.
Neil, the existing parking lot usage on the site, is that public parking, or is it?
Yeah, so it's privately managed by the Sheridan, but anyone can park there. There's a gate and
Okay.
yeah, so it's both. And we do have some parking data for that we looked at while going through the parking demand, and it was below what the city ordinance required, which is why we just went ahead and used the city's ordinance to determine parking.
But it is possible that some people parking there today would not be able to park in there in the future.
Correct, yes.
Any other comments at this time? Anyone on tech? No? All right, we'll open it for any public comment. If anyone would like to speak to this, please come up and state your name.
Do you mean to give me that one? It was
Yes.
folded. Okay.
I had printer issues today, I'm sorry. Elizabeth Bradder, property owner, 159 McDonough Street. Just in regards to something that was mentioned at the end, that was obviously put on tonight, if they have a restaurant or any kind of food service type thing in any of that commercial space, they are going to have deliveries a lot more often than occasionally, and they are going to have a lot more trash just kind of out of there. Good afternoon. So the first thing I have concerns about is safety, and I'm very thankful that they're going to use the 6-inch thermoplastic instead of the red bricks, but I am concerned about what's going to happen at the dueling crosswalks. People are going to come out of Russell Street and turn onto Deer Street, and then they're going to be looking ahead at the Maplewood light, hoping it's green because it's a long light to sit at, and I am concerned about the pedestrians crossing at the dueling thing. So I'm hoping that there's going to be an RRFB there, as well as the idea of pinch pointing that, as much as they said they didn't want to put a medium on Green Street. I think some kind of something needs to be put on Maplewood to slow down that traffic coming up to those crosswalks. In terms of runoff, I didn't see a copy of the letter from CMA. The soil groups that they found on the property were D, which is a low water transmission, and A, which is a high water transmission. And what they listed is that the ground is listed as urban land with shallow bedrock. And that's the reason they used, when they talked about the peer review, to control the runoff using retention basins. But I'm thinking that all 3 lots are going to be completely stripped and blasted, and whatever else that gets done in order to dig really large holes and be able to put up 5-story buildings and then underground parking. So once that happens, you're going to have a whole different ground level, and you could probably put in rain gardens, vegetative swales, or some other natural means in order to reduce the runoff going into the North Mill Pond. Currently, there's an increase of 11%, which is 9,903 square feet of impervious surface being proposed. If you look at what I passed out to you, it's Section 4 of the peak flow, it's on actually page on 115, and it shows that, it does not show that the post-peak flow is less than or equal to 50% of the pre-peak flow, and some other of those numbers seem questionable to me. Now, I am not a water engineer in any way, shape, or form, but has to do with MS4, and I put those requirements on the back of that peak flow paper. I am curious, still curious, about the mysterious second floor green space. On Plan A102, page 52, it shows an outdoor space. There is no size that I was able to find associated with. Plan 101 for the landscape plan makes no reference to it having a plant list. It's shown green on the plan sets. The area was described at the HDC meeting as a green space. It appears to be quite large. I think, and this is me spending other people's money, it could be a green roof and have some paths and decks on it, which would allow some more natural control of water runoff. And it would also be a nice feature that people who live and work there could be proud of. It would be something I don't think we have too many of here in Portsmouth. The dark sky requirement, of course, I have to bring this up. The International Dark Sky Association states it is crucial to control upward directed light, and we now know that the color of the light is also very important. Both LED and metal halide features contain large amounts of blue light in their spectrum. Because blue light brightens the night sky more than other colors of light, it is important to minimize the amount emitted. The International Dark Sky Association recommends using lighting that has a color temperature of no more than 3,000 kelvins. The lighting presented talks to you about energy saving. It does not talk to you about dark sky. They don't show any Kelvin ratings, at least I couldn't find any, to meet the dark sky requirements of the city. On page 47, they show all the lights that are being presented. And the presented lights include 8 building floodlights, 81 lights to light up the side of the building. To me, it seems like an awful lot of light for an area that's considered a dark sky city. And my other issue is that there are already going to be street lights that they've listed all along the edge of this building. So I'm not really sure why we need to light up the building, but just something to think about. In regards to landscaping, on pages 43 to 45, there are tree boxes shown, and I'd like to be a little different about them, and that's included in your thing I passed out. If you go to Porter Street, I think that's the name of it, they have street boxes that have been there for a long time, and the sidewalk is very difficult to walk on because the trees have grown through the sidewalk, because that's what happens when you have them that close. So it's a great idea to plant trees throughout the city. If you go onto Congress Street, we have these little curbs around them, and people fall on them, or they stand inside the tree box. They let their dogs go to the bathroom in the tree box. Their kids crawl on it, and they're walking along the edges. On Islington Street, we have the new flat tree boxes, which is nice, but they're going to be similar to the effect that we have on Porter Street. So I passed out this cute little picture that I literally took probably 20 minutes before I came. You can have one. And it shows a building in Dover. It's 104 Washington Street. He's also a developer here, just FYI. And he has these kind of hardscape things around his tree boxes. And they're pretty big in size. And since these are going to be 12 and 14 feet, maybe the trees could be put in those. Then you can put plants around them because they're about, I think they're about 8 or 12 inches high, I'm not really sure. But it keeps the dogs out of them. They're rounded, so they're less likely to be walked on, but there's no guarantees. If I was a kid, I'd walk on anything. But it's just a suggestion, and you can put plants in the middle, so it kind of takes away from that isolated tree look. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to make
Yes,
public
please.
comment? Come on up.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Larry Gormley. I'm an attorney representing the Market Wharf Condominium Association, which is comprised of 29 owners in the condominium building that sits directly opposite the hotel. I'm here to address issues related to parking that I think render this application premature. And if you'll indulge me with a couple of minutes of history, this condominium has had an easement to park on the current lot, the open lot, since 1987. They've got 58 deeded spots that they've used for 35 years. And they've used them generally without molestation. As you know, an easement is a property interest. They own these. Although pursuant to the deed, it is subject to being moved by the owner. In fact, the deed, the prior owner, Harbor Corp., which was the original developer of the Sheraton, did move us in anticipation of their prior failed development of that lot. There were a series of negotiations, but some 7 years ago, it was agreed with a number of conditions that the condominium association would be relocated to the underground garage at the Sheraton. And my clients spent a considerable amount of time, effort, and money to investigate that, to assure themselves that that would be acceptable to them, structurally, convenience-wise, otherwise. And they did it. And they've been at it since, for 7 years. And I use the term parking, and I don't mean to be, I don't mean to lecture, but obviously the right to park has a number of ancillary concepts, and that those include the right to park, the access to parking, the type of parking spot, the ease of entry and exit. All of those things are issues that my clients have had for 35 years. Now, with the prior owner and their attorney, we eventually negotiated an 8-page agreement that addressed all of those issues: how we could park in the garage, where we could park, how we could get through the gate, a number of issues that were very important to my clients. We came to terms, and shortly after, we came to verbal terms. Shortly after we came to terms, Harbor Corp. Sold to Port Harbor Land. Port Harbor Land has done a 180. They've basically told us to pound sand. Other than telling us, not directly, but through their application into boards, that we will be relocated to a new building, they've shared nothing with us. We know absolutely nothing about the proposal to relocate this easement. How we will access, what we will be parking, or how we will be parking, the nature of the parking. There are stacked lots, stacked spots in this garage that are contrary to our property interest, we believe. As a result, we filed litigation seeking a declaratory judgment about our rights as it relates to parking, wherever that may be. And as an editorial aside, I have to observe that an awful lot of this could be obviated by working with us collaboratively to tell us what they intend to do, how they intend to do it. But they've chosen not to do that. Unlike the prior owner, they basically tell us, again, to pound sand. We've asked for details, we've gotten nothing. So, despite the fact that it's gone so far, despite the fact that we have an ownership interest, through counsel, they have threatened to evict us from our own deeded site. So it's become a very adversary sort of, I shouldn't say adversary, we're not fighting. There's just no communication, or any communication is one way. So that is why we were required to file suit. So based on their plans, as I read them, I don't believe that there's a great margin for error in the parking being accommodated by this development. And this raises a number of issues that I suggest are relevant to your consideration. As I said before, they have, part of the parking involves stacked spots. As an initial matter, we have 18 commercial spots that aren't eligible for stacking. So we don't know if that has been accounted for. As I said before, we don't believe that our deeded rights can be stacked. We believe that we have a right to individual parking spaces as we have used for 35 years. And given the way we have been treated by Port Harbor to this point, we expect that we are going to be given the least desirable parking spots available to them. Presumably because they're going to sell the more desirable spots to condo owners or allow them for business owners. So, however, if a court agrees with us that we have a property right, that Port Harbor land cannot relegate us to stacked spaces, must afford us reasonable access, must afford us relatively convenient access, and they've already sold spots to condo owners that are not stacked spots, that is going to create an issue. Put another way, the capacity of those stacked spots will be cut in half because they will have sold single spots to condo owners, and assuming that my clients would take the stacked spots, if that is precluded by a court, they're down 50% on those stacked spots. And that creates, we believe, a shortage in their parking. So there are a number of other issues. Port Harbor has ignored the agreement that we relied on with the prior owner in moving to the garage. And the way they've operated, they're simply pirating our spaces in the garage. We're supposed to have exclusive spots, they just take them. We're supposed to have one code so that we being the entity, can control the use of its parking spot. They've said, no, we're going to give the individual owners their own code. And if those individual owners aren't there, instead of the entity that controls these parking spots being able to utilize spots for its component members that may not be using them, Port Harbor just parks its valet cars or whomever, but they're not Market Wharf cars. They just take our spots. So these are a variety of issues that have arisen even before we have been moved. And we anticipate that a court will look with some sympathy at our plight, given the nature of our right and the length of our experience on this site. So, given the pending litigation, what may well flow from a court's order, we suggest that while I'm sure Port Harbor is making these representations in good faith, the court's order may well undercut the viability of those representations. The parking that they suggest is available if the configuration that they propose is prohibited by the court, may well result in a shortage of parking. And our concern is that this process proceeds and then they build their building and the court comes down and says, yes, Market Wharf, you're right. And then Port Harbor says, well, too late. We've already sold these spots to someone else, or we've made other plans. You're out of luck. So what I have are 29 owners that have a deeded property right in this piece of property. And while Port Harbor has sought to ignore us, we suggest that it's incumbent upon the city to take our concerns under advisement in rendering a decision, or even whether you do render a decision at this point. And that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else here or on the Zoom call? I don't see anyone. All right, we'll close that portion of the meeting and open it up for discussion.
I got a question about the crosswalks that Ms. Brader brought up. Liz, which questions, which intersection or crosswalk specifically were you talking about? I wasn't sure on your
So
dueling
you see the-
crosswalks.
Stop where you are. Peter, you're on the right page. So you see the dueling crosswalks there?
Those
That are
two?
coming from Port Place?
Here.
The end of Poor Walk,
Right
into the
there.
Muse.
Those two. There's two, it's shown as two, with a big area in the middle, so I'm not really sure what that's all about. But as they come out of Russell Street, they're gonna take a right onto Russell, heading towards Maplewood. And that area in between there should have some kind of traffic calm, because that's 2 lanes after the crosswalks. Is it gonna be 2 lanes on both sides now?
Do you mean between the intersection of Russell and Deer back
Yes.
here? Yes.
Mhm.
Is it going to be 2 lanes?
Is it gonna be
Here?
2 lanes coming in there?
I think it's only 1 lane, isn't
Yeah.
it, Eric, between
Yeah.
the crosswalks?
One travel lane and 1 lane of parking?
Yeah,
Okay.
between the 2 crosswalks,
All I'm saying is that the people who
Or 2
now
pairs.
travel there
yeah.
come around there pretty quick, heading towards Maplewood. That's a long light there, so people try to cruise through it as quickly as possible. And I don't know if any kind of traffic calming can be done between Russell and Deer and that dual crosswalk there.
Yeah.
That's all my thinking is.
You mean Deer, Russell and Maplewood, in that space there that he's.
Right in here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in that space,
Yeah.
coming from Russell.
Between the
Yeah.
double.
Yeah, between the corner, in there somewhere. You can think about it, look at it.
Yeah, I
Do
mean,
you know whether the left turn lane stacks in that crosswalk zone?
oh, it stacks all the way back to Deer and Russell today. It's a solid line of cars at peak times.
Pedestrians also cross there now all the time.
Yes, they do.
It's just a free-for-all.
Yep,
So
and there's no
putting a-
crosswalk there today.
putting an actual crosswalk in.
Yeah.
And I believe that curb line on the development side is actually pulled in a little bit, so that width of road is being slightly narrowed, which will also help that situation.
Yeah, I do have concerns about having a crosswalk at that location because it is so close to the signalized intersection of Maplewood. It's only 100 feet away, and, you know, the traffic does cube back through that intersection. And you have a signalized pedestrian crossing at Maplewood, whereas this would be an unsignalized crossing. Sometimes when you put in a painted crosswalk, it makes things worse because people assume that they're going to be safe because it's a crosswalk.
Right.
At this location, a lot of people do cross today, but because there's no crossing marked, they are more careful. They look to see if there's traffic coming, whereas when you paint something out there, people assume that they're safe. And this is not what I would define as a safe location to be crossing. I think this really needs some looking at, maybe some monitoring it after construction to see how it's being used, and maybe some traffic calming at that point. A lot of the pedestrians crossing now are using the parking lot, public parking, and they're crossing the tracks coming from Rains and Vaughan. So I question the amount of pedestrian activity. Will it be less or more than what we have today? So I do have concerns about putting in a marked crossing at that location. I would prefer to wait and see before building something there. If something has to be built there, I would prefer one crosswalk as far away from Maplewood as you could get it. Right now, you're showing a flush curb the entire width between there, but it really should be 2 tip downs if you're going to have 2 crosswalks, because you don't want pedestrians walking through the middle of the intersection into the middle of Port Walk Place.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I know, I mean, the original intent was to mirror the other side, but, you know, if you
Yeah.
guys would prefer us to eliminate it, have one, you know,
Well, is somebody gonna review this? I mean, I definitely think you need to look at traffic calming as an alternative to
I
obliteration.
mean, there was nothing that spoke to it in the traffic peer review that we had received.
No,
It
but-
wasn't mentioned at all.
no, I think it'd be good to have TEC take a look at this while they're
Yeah,
completing their review, get their thoughts on this location.
because I do think there'll be volume going across, not wanting to
I
spend an
mean, we
extra
want
300
volume because we
feet to
want,
get to the
we want
so-called
people to
muse.
use that community space we're
I
developing.
think we do
so,
too.
um,
It's gotta be safe.
Yes.
Um,
And being at that location where you have traffic stopped in a line of approaching the signal at Maplewood and free-flowing traffic coming the other way, that's not a safe spot for pedestrians to be crossing. Walking out between cars that are stopped and into oncoming traffic. So definitely needs, I would like to have the peer review take a look at that and get their thoughts, and we can see if we can come up with something.
I agree with you, Eric. I think it needs to be peer reviewed, just to make sure it's gonna be safe.
Well,
Especially where
and given
there's
it's,
parking all around the street, too.
and given it's likely not to be found necessarily safe for all the same reasons you're pointing out. I think we need to ask the peer reviewer to solve the problem than just remove it wholesale. What other options are available to make it safe and not having it?
Yes.
Agreed.
Any other discussion?
So just looking at the lighting codes that I could find while you guys were talking, it seems like you are using 3,000 degree bulbs, but if you could confirm that on all the fixtures,
Okay.
that'd be helpful. Neil, thank you. And the wall wash lights, they are wall wash lights, right, on the building?
I believe so.
Do we know what the wattages will be? Do we have an idea how bright those are? Whether they're kind of dim, or we don't want to create a situation like we had when we lit up Foundry Place.
Yeah, I don't know that off the top of my head, but we can confirm that with the lighting designer.
You said you were expecting delivery to be made probably using Russell Street or just using the parking spaces that are out there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
We don't have a defined use for those commercial spaces yet, so it's hard to exactly
Yeah.
know when and where and how often at this point for any of that.
Mm-hmm. It may be worth considering requesting a loading zone on Russell Street if you expect that to be used out there.
Okay.
But that would be up to, parking traffic.
Right. And would you envision like a 6 to 9, similar to other ones we've done?
Yeah, similar to Rains and Vaughn, I think. Or,
Yeah.
Morning loading only or something?
Yeah,
Mhm.
before the meters kick in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense, if we could do that.
So you mentioned all solid waste would be in Building 2?
Likely at this point, unless
Thinking somebody
Well,
in,
left totes in building 1 and building 3 that'll.
it would get
be
stored
brought
in
over.
building 2.
Exactly,
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's, so there'd be an area identified within the garage to store those.
And is there an intent of this project to put some type of barricade to keep people from crossing the railroad tracks, or is that going to be left up to the railroad, or how do you envision that?
So at this point, what we have is putting up wayfinding signage at the end of the Muse community space to direct people left or right to various locations. Obviously, the owner doesn't want people crossing the railroad there. It's, it becomes a liability. So yeah, we're looking to try and divert people.
But it's not your intent to put up a fence or anything?
Not at this point, no.
How much does the grade change?
We're pretty well at grade along that.
The rail line?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Back to the trash, you said it's gonna go in the garage?
Yeah.
Is there a space in the garage for it now?
I don't know if it's specifically identified at this point.
So that may affect parking
How hard is it to
spaces?
get the pedestrian crossing?
Because of the shape of the building, there's a lot of sort of unused space within the garage. So I think the architect is gonna look to put that in some of that unused area, or shift some of it around to provide a space for it in there.
So not an enclosed area then?
Would be inside the building, in the garage.
Yeah, but not separated from the rest of the parking garage?
I don't know at this point.
We would want to know that, because that would affect, it's a different occupancy storage classification for
Okay.
cars and trash.
One more thing about the railroad. So we've started discussions, we gotta redo the railroad crossing there, and we're just, project's in its infancy, but one of the things we're looking at doing is putting crossing gates there, and does anybody know how much room they need for crossing gates? Is this driveway gonna be in the way?
I don't know.
Usually the crossing gates don't go immediately on, adjacent to the tracks, usually there's a small setback, so we should confirm that this configuration's gonna lead itself to being able to put in crossing gates after the fact, if necessary.
On this side, for going out of town.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
Yeah, okay, we could look at that. It's not something we'd.
I mean, you know, and depending on the location, they may require you to put a crossing gate across the back driveway too. I don't know. Is that's the entrance though, right?
The entrance is on Maplewood, the exit's on
Okay,
Green.
so that's not a problem. But you need to confirm that we're leaving enough room there. So, you said that, I'm still trying to catch up, I was on vacation last week, but you said that, you're detaining a bunch of water now because of what we talked about with the ballast stone.
Yep.
Are you infiltrating at all, anywhere?
No.
Okay. So is there a reason for that? Do you have test pits to show that that won't work, or?
The previous development had a geotech report and had a bunch of borings done. All the ledge is really shallow out there, so we're gonna be right up on it so that the water wouldn't have anywhere to go.
Okay, so are they all in the back alleyway?
Most of them are in the mews between buildings 1 and 2, using
I see.
concrete detention chambers.
Okay, and
And
those
there's a
are,
small row behind building 2 and another small row behind building 3.
so those are they above the basement parking elevation?
Don't know off the top
In
of my
other
head.
words, are you gonna have to support that load?
Potentially. I don't know off the top of my head the elevation difference, though.
Okay. This says basement parking as an elevation 12,
So I think they're below that.
chamber invert is at 7.5. Okay, so these are deep in the ground.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. And you know that when you put this drainage system out in Green Street, you're gonna end up having to remove a bunch of rock,
Yeah, well, I mean, there's that
Just
giant novel ledge right there that's.
which is gonna end up causing the removal of, at least temporarily, the gas line and the water main in that section, because they're very close to where you're showing this drain line.
Okay.
So you should plan for that ahead of time, at least with a note, so it's not a surprise to anybody else.
Any other comments at this time?
Question on
Sure.
building 2 lower level parking, where's the second exit?
There there is there's a second, I'm not super familiar with building code, but there is a second stairwell on the left side.
Was that what I'm looking at, right?
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Okay.
Beverly, do you acknowledge the, the easements and the potential conflict if there is a parking easement for the abutting condos before it gets approved at the planning board level? Is that when you would handle that?
So one thing I will say is that we had I would say not exactly same, but we had a pre-existing covenant that was before the planning board recently, and it was brought to planning board's attention, and I think they generally accept the idea that that may or may not be part of their consideration. But I would say that it would be my expectation, they would ask questions about that. Knowing what I've seen in the planning board, they would want to see some answer or resolution to that in some way, because they would want to have some confidence that this would not impede. I don't know if that can be part of their deliberations. That's not, it seems to me like that question was raised, whether or not that can be part of their deliberations under state law, but I can tell you that they did request some sort of, discussion or resolution if they could get that. So I recognize that they're, that it's gonna get resolved at some point. Sounds like it potentially could get resolved by the courts, but it may be useful to try and head that discussion off. The planning board will ask about it.
Okay.
I think we'd have to ask legal about to what degree that can be part of their deliberations. But it was raised by one of the applicant's attorney that that actually cannot be part of their deliberations, so I don't know the answer to that.
Then with the lighting, isn't it the city's ordinance that the lighting be all dark sky compliant? So therefore, rather than providing, different lighting measurements, in other words, you would need some sort of a statement, or the planning board would, from the engineer or from the manufacturer of the schedule stating that all the lighting is dark sky compliant, right?
So, go ahead, I think that they rely on the planning board to really take a look at the photometric plan and make sure that it's compliant. They may ask that question and they will want me to provide a response, but I think whatever we would typically require as part of our review would probably be the better way to handle that. And I'm not really sure what that is to ensure the project is dark sky compliant. I don't know if we just look at the photometric plan, or we also look at, we also look at the specifications of the, how many lumens and what the lumen count is and what the wattage is. It seems like there's additional specificity that's requested. I don't know. I'd have to look at the ordinance to see how that matches up against it. But I would say they'd want us to review what we can review as part of this board, this committee. Did you have something to add to that?
I think it'd be appropriate if your lighting manufacturer could certify that, look at the plans. That whoever generated the photometric study should be able to do that.
Looking at the shared space in the back, that alleyway or street, whatever you want to call it.
Common access, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I want to call it.
Your sightlines coming out of the Muse space for pedestrians or coming out of the parking garage, there's very limited sightlines because of the sharp angles of the building there. So I'm concerned if, a pedestrian will walk out in front of oncoming traffic here without seeing what's coming. Coming out of the Muse space, a pedestrian walking out won't see traffic coming, and a vehicle pulling out of the garage won't be able to see someone who, a bicycle or someone, pedestrians walking in front of that, along the edge of that building. Maybe, I don't know what you can do about that, but it just seems like you have very limited sightlines coming out of there. Maybe a warning device at the parking garage coming out, when the vehicle's exiting, it would have some flasher or something to let bicycles are coming along that know that someone's going to be coming out there. And it's intended to be one-way traffic, right?
Yes.
For bicycles as well?
No, bicycles and pedestrians, I would envision, would be two-way.
Okay, that should be marked somehow, because bicycles are supposed to follow the same rules of the road as vehicle traffic. So if bicycles are allowed to be two-way, that there needs to be something notifying them and vehicle traffic that that's what's happening.
So we did add the multi-use path signage to both ends based on a prior comment. So, I mean, that would indicate that to at least the pedestrians that they could go two ways, and I would think that would also notify or alert to cars that, oh, they wouldn't see it coming from the other side. So we could add some additional signage, it's, you know, two-way pedestrian traffic or something like that.
Yeah, two-way bicycle traffic, so people don't think the bicycles are going the wrong way.
Right.
Maybe you could do something to keep, pedestrians and bicycle traffic to the railroad side of the roadway so that they have better visibility. If you could mark it, I know like we did on Sheaf Street, we did something flush, but
Yeah.
All right, any other comments, or sounds like we probably need another look at this, huh?
make a motion to continue it to the next meeting?
All right, motion by Eric and second by Zach. All in favor to continue?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Looking at that, sidewalk crossings out of the right of way, and there's nothing, it's Ballastone. They're gonna have to widen that railroad crossing.
All right, again,
Oh.
212 Woodbury is postponed, so we'll move on to item F.
Yep.
The request of Randy and Jeff Collins, owners and applicants for property located at 77 Meredith Way, requesting preliminary and final subdivision approval to subdivide one existing lot with 22,463 square feet of lot area and 31.7 feet of street frontage into two lots with associated 73 feet of road extension as follows. Proposed Lot 1, 11,198 square feet of lot area with 73.79 feet of street frontage, and proposed Lot 2 with 11,265 square feet of lot area and 31.61 feet of street frontage. Said property is located on Assessor Map 162, lots 16, and lies within the General Residence A District.
Thank you, Peter. Chris Mulligan for the applicants, Randy and Jeff Collins. Jeff is here to my left, and to his left is Brenda Colbo from TF Moran, who's the surveyor that prepared the plans before you. Last night, we received an updated list of comments and concerns, and I think they're fairly straightforward, and we can kind of go through them.
Sure.
Most of these have some technical components to them, so Brenda might need to jump in, but just to go through them, comment number 1, roadway extension and driveway area for turnaround easement must be built to the city standard. We concur, and we'll add detail to the plan to affect that. DPW obviously should review it, but we will add that detail. Number 2, sewer plan on Meredith Way is not as shown. Update to existing conditions. Sewer service installation at Pine Street requires an easement from the city. So we will update the existing conditions to indicate the easement area on the plans. Again, that will require, I'm sorry?
Sorry, I do have a question about that, about
Oh,
if
okay.
we have verified where the line is existing. You had sent me this
I
over.
sent it to you before, I don't know if I can.
Is that the existing one?
No, the light green and the dark green are showing where you need to install them for the second lot.
Okay, so
Sorry if I wasn't clear. I was trying to give you everything you needed so you could get through here today.
Okay. So do we know where this existing house connects to the sewer?
We do not.
We do not. Okay.
They may need an easement too.
For the other one,
You may need to,
hook both of them?
yeah.
All right, so moving on, the rain garden requires overflow pipe connection to the city drainage system. We will add that connection on the plans. Test pit location of rain gardens and rain garden, test pit of rain garden results and drainage calcs, we can add those to the plans. So that's 4 and 5. Drainage calculations, again, we can add those to the plans. Turnaround easement, and the language for the turnaround easement, that's something that typically we work out with the legal department and they review and approve. So I anticipate that Trevor and I will be circulating that and getting that accepted. The distance from the garage door to the easement area is 18 feet, so it is sufficient. Then 8 and 9, prior to planning board approval, proposed water shutoff for the eastern house must be installed in the right-of-way. We can revise and put that in the correct location. And the note number 9 has to do with encouraging the Tree and Greenery Committee to support some landscaping, and we will agree to do that. Oh, okay. So Jeff's telling me that the committee will provide us with the trees.
Part of the Plant the Tree program?
Yeah.
All right, any comments on these comments from any TAC members? Yeah.
I have one. We're trying to get the easements all on one plan. It goes so much faster at the end. We don't, knowing what the easements are, I only see 2 easements that are here. If we could just have just a separate easement plan, with unique identifier, what the nature of the easements are, those are at least, I think, one of them. 2 of them, both of them looks like they both have to go to council. So it'll go a lot quicker on the other side if we just get that.
So Beverly, you're talking about both the water line easements and the turnaround easement all
Yeah.
on one plan?
We're starting to ask those just to be on a separate easement sheet. It helps in the post-approval review. It just goes a lot quicker. He doesn't hunt around. We don't have big conversations about are we missing an easement? We're just starting to ask that as a standard stipulation. Just include an easement plan. He pulls it out. We understand where they go. They go a little bit quicker as we move those to council. Looks like both have to go to council, so.
Do you have a standard width for like the sewer right away, or easement, sorry?
I don't know the answer to that.
10 feet
10 feet.
centered on the pipe.
We good?
Well, yeah, any other comments? Is there anyone from the public who'd like to speak to this application? No one on Zoom? All right, we'll close that portion.
There's a few public works comments, I think, that are still pending, and I don't know if Public Works wants to move it forward without the test pits and the rain garden information and the drainage calculation. There's a few things there, so.
The sewer.
And the sewer service.
And the sewer
is a big-
service, yeah, so.
We do have the test pit information and the drainage calculations. It's, we can add those to the plans.
Okay.
And as far as the sewer goes, we can coordinate with Dave for the location.
City Street.
What do you think, Dave? Do they need to come back, or can we condition it?
Do you want to see the
I mean,
drainage
honestly, we
calculation?
made zero progress since last month, but at the same time, you know, I hate to bring this back for such minor stuff, but it's like nothing happened. Apparent, you know, it's like, we have rain gardens shown, but they don't have drains. We don't know where the sewer lateral is gonna go. The water line is on there as 1.5 inches, but it doesn't show you where it reduces down to 1 inch. That's not on here. You know, it's just like, there's a bunch of stuff missing that, you know, it still needs a lot of work. Which I imagine is not what you want to hear, but it's true.
We had the 1.5-inch water line shown along the side of the road and then
Yep.
changing to 1 inch.
Where?
Going to
Where
the
does it
building.
change?
Where it
I don't see
elbows,
where it changes.
where it elbows to the second house.
Does it say that somewhere?
There's a label above, or just below the driveway. 1 inch and then
Yeah, I saw an
1.5
inch and a half,
inch.
yep, got it.
Yeah, I see that, 1 inch.
For the services,
Absolutely.
though, that's
Yes.
not for the main.
I'm looking for where the actual pipe changes size. That's not shown. It's not here.
Inch and a half. Straight line. And then 1 inch in that straight line. Right. So at the corner, at the elbow, is where you'd have an arrow and say this was where it would change.
Right.
Yep.
Right, and then the actual water line extension is shown, I don't know, it's behind a gray line. What is the gray line? Is that the right-of-way? Is that, what is that? Are we digging through the park to put in the water main extension?
Yeah, that gray line is the right-of-way line.
So, I can't tell, are we digging through, features of the park, or? I mean,
Yeah, you too. And hopefully you can get an answer. All right, you too.
And then, obviously, you're gonna have to show the park, you're gonna have to show where the sewer laterals go through the park. And we're gonna need to pick where they go so that they don't go through tree roots, so we don't kill trees in the park.
Yeah, we actually have that.
And we have to show the guardrail being, replaced or fixed, or, all that data is just not here. There's a lot of information missing. It seems trivial, but it's not trivial. You're talking about going through a city park and potentially
Doing the
implications of other things.
To be fair, we just got this last night about going through the city park with the sewer.
I sent that to her before I went on vacation,
Yeah,
on purpose, so that it would be,
I believe that
I
was
don't know.
following the submittal deadline.
okay. Well, that might be the case, and I don't mean to, but I did try to get you the information before I left, so.
Are we still doing the dye test?
Yeah, we're supposed to be getting a dye test on the existing sewer to find out the actual location.
So we need more than a dye test, we need somebody to send a camera down the sewer pipe and trace it out on the ground, so that Brenda can locate it on the ground, so we know exactly where it is underground, so that she can draw the easement in the right spot. That's what we need. Dye doesn't tell you anything other than which direction the pipe goes.
Yeah.
I'm just giving you the I-101.
That's Jim, right, would be,
It's Ruderman or you know, any of these guys that have when you have roots in your pipe and you call them, they all have cameras, so they can see and they all have a tracking device, and then they can follow it on the ground, and that's what you need to do. We need to know where these things are, they need to be located, and we need to just kind of finish up. You know, the test pits are marked on the plan, their location, but it says test pit 1, it gives you the elevation of the ground and how deep the hole was, but it doesn't tell you anything about the soil. Doesn't tell you, you know, what was there, what the groundwater elevation is. And then underneath it says the soil survey is hydrologic group A, which is ridiculous considering there's ponded water down there sometimes. So that's not true. So it's just, you know, I recommended that we do a work session a month ago so that we could work these things out.
is this the test pit data?
So you'd like to see it again, see it come back, that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I quite frankly, I like to see it offline so that we make sure it's right before it comes back, because you know, I feel like for a 2-lot subdivision, you've already been here too many times,
So,
quite frankly.
would
So-
you like us to
You're
set up,
preaching to the choir.
would you like us to just set up a meeting prior to the next TAC and see if we can?
Well, maybe next week, so that the sewer lateral is located, we know where everything is. We can go out to the park, we can decide where the pipe needs to go, so that everything, all the ducks are in a row, if that's okay with everybody else. That's fine with me.
So Dave, are you saying you'd like to have just a site visit and a?
That would be,
Okay.
I'll, you know, see where the plans are, bring the newest version, and you can mark it up, and you can do a final submittal.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
So anyone, you want to make a motion to continue?
Yeah, I will.
All right.
Second.
Second from Zach. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We'll coordinate that site visit with you and Public Works. Okay. I'll get that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We got you the good chocolates today, okay?
Oh my gosh, that's
We're
funny.
not skipping this time, okay?
All right. Next item
Oh my God.
is the request, Road to the West LLC, owner and applicant for property located at 140 West Road, requesting amended site plan approval to improve and install stormwater infrastructure, relocated dumpsters, install landscaping, and increase parking spaces from 102 to 122 where 119 are required. Said property is located on Assessor Map 252, Lot 2-13, and lies within the industrial district.
Good afternoon again, Chris Mulligan from Bozen and Associates on behalf of the applicant. To my right is Alex Ross, project engineer. His right is Alex Paquette, the owner of the property, and Mark Giannani from McHenry Architects, project architect. So we just got the TAC comments last night, and I was actually out of town, so I haven't had any real opportunity to review them, so I'm hoping one of my colleagues here can kind of walk you through them. Alex?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, so I guess I'd like to start with the plan set, and we can just go through the revisions and updates. If we're looking at the site plan here, one of the comments from the last meeting was the board would like a drainage easement. So on the right sideline there, we've shown a drainage easement. That's 10 feet wide, right along that drain pipe. Also at the last meeting, it was recommended that we do additional test pits in the back of the property. So you can see test pit 5, 6, and 7. We've located those out back. Also, there were 3 parking spaces that the board wanted removed and changed to landscape areas. So we did that as well. And if you can go to the next sheet, the landscape plan. So on this plan, if you recall, on the right sideline there, we had some trees over that drain line. That drain line is 7 or 8 feet below grade. But Dave had a good point. If there's maintenance or that line needs to be replaced, it wouldn't be easy with large trees. So we removed the proposed trees there and went with much smaller plantings along that line for some good screening there. And then also you can see the 3 parking spaces kind of spread out throughout the site that are landscaped. If we could go to the utility plan. The next sheet there, Peter.
Trying.
So one of the comments at the last meeting was the grease trap should be relocated close to the building and try to remove some of those bend lines. So we have done that on this plan. And if we could skip over to the grading and drainage. If you recall, at the back of the parcel, we had pervious pavement at the far end of the parcel. So that's been switched. It's now up against the building. We have enlarged the detention pond out back and added a treatment swale. On the next sheet, we included all the test pits with all the information for that.
The new detention pond has a staged outlet, does it?
It does.
Where's that shown?
Yeah, so I know one of your comments, Dave, was you wanted additional information on like a section for the front as well. So if we go to details on sheet 11. In the bottom right there, you can see that section of all those basins. Back to your comment about the detention pond, if we go to the sheet prior, sheet 10, you can see we have a little cross-section for that detention pond with the different outlets. And also to go through, so I think we covered all the comments from the last meeting. The comments we just got last night, I wanted to go through those as well. So the first one was pre-treat stormwater prior to detention basin. So if we look at, probably the landscape plan would be good to see that. So the pervious pavement has an underdrain, which then runs to a treatment swale. The treatment swale then conveys that runoff to the detention pond. The majority of the rear parking lot also goes through that same drainage path. The next item was state what surface water catch basin A will receive and need for a catch basin in that location. So if we can look at the site plan. So catch basin A is up close to the front of the building. And really, its purpose is to have a basin to distribute the flow into the stormwater chambers. The water that will go to that basin is the roof runoff.
Okay, so it could be a manhole, it doesn't have to be a catch basin.
That could be a manhole.
Okay.
Yeah.
If it's a catch basin, I'm not seeing any sort of jellyfish filtering, so it would be better as a manhole to not require treatment there.
Correct. Sure. The next item, item 3, include sewer manhole detail. So if we go to the utility plan, that would be the sewer manhole where we're gonna tie in and have our grease trap connect. It's also a location where we found an issue with the existing pipe that needs to be repaired, so it's a great location for that. Yes, and we can definitely add a sewer manhole detail to the plan set, no problem.
You should use the state standard sewer manhole detail.
Sure.
That way it's not a comment on the next round.
You got it.
Okay.
The next item is the updated landscape plan shows 3 new landscaped islands with a tree in each one. Please add some additional plantings in the islands. So if we look at the landscape plan, those are those 3 parking spaces, and we can definitely add some small plantings to surround those trees. The next item.
Are you showing removing the gravel that's underneath those spaces currently? Putting like 18 inches of loam in there, so the plants will actually survive?
We can
Good
make
point.
sure there's a note for that, yes. The next item, number 5, the cistern plan for irrigation is a sustainable solution. Please provide details on cistern operation and maintenance. So that's a good point, and I know the owner has reached out to a couple of contractors, and we can provide a plan of how that would work with the supplemental water, the pumps, the irrigation lines, so we can add that.
You're worried about commingling of water, right? That's the point?
That was not actually my comment.
Okay. So worried about commingling of water and making sure that the city system is protected through backflow devices in case the water gets commingled somehow.
Yeah, I mean, as part of the coordination with CSI, the engineering group, they're obviously aware that they need to provide a second meter and a second backwater, or backflow preventer and everything. That'll be part of their design and drawing as well.
Okay.
So that brings us to item 6. Please list all state and federal permits. That will be needed. We can add a note for that. The only permit that would be needed on this site will probably be a SWIP. Just because it's a pretty small site. And then additional items prior to planning board approval. Continue granite curbing around entire parking lot in vicinity of catch basin B for drainage. Yes, so that's in the corner by the main entrance. We can add some curbing at that location. And then the last item, please provide a letter stating how all TAC comments and stipulations have been satisfied. We can provide that.
So I got two new ones for you because I, again, was away. Real quick. Any of the plantings that you show, any trees that you show in the right-of-way along West Road,
Uh-huh.
need approval from Trees and Greenery Committee because you're planting in the city right-of-way? Not saying it's a bad thing, it's just a technical point. You need permission to do that. And I'm not sure what you're planting. Looks like magnolias. Which is probably fine, but you just need to do that. And
Sure.
then on your grading plan, I noticed that you're lowering the ground in the back parking lot. I was wondering if that was intentional, or if you didn't think about what the implications were. That you had to remove all that gravel in the parking lot to do that.
So are you saying by,
You're pulling the 97 contour closer to the building. That's excavation. So you're removing the pavement, but you're also removing the gravel that's under the pavement, and then replacing it, which I understand you're doing with the porous pavement as well. But just the way that you show it, you're actually removing gravel that's currently underneath the pavement so that you can regrade instead of maintaining the existing parking lot grade.
sure, yeah, and
Yes. So,
I understand
didn't
that.
know if you were doing that on purpose for some reason.
I think there's a way to adjust that. We'd probably have enough pitch to
Okay.
move that
You
out
might
a bit.
want to just look at that and see if you can
Yeah, no, thanks for that.
possibly save some money. And can you actually show the outfall structure on the plan? Should be on the grading plan with the detention basin contours,
Sure.
okay? Thank you.
Catch basin B, I see in the details, it looks like you're calling that as the jellyfish filter is integrated into the catch basin, is that correct?
Yes. So what happens there is catch basin B is the jellyfish. Drain manhole B collects water from the storm tech, which is really the roof runoff.
Okay. Might be worth a note with catch basin B and having it labeled as, the filter as well.
So that's the existing location of the catch basin that's out there?
Yes.
Okay. Is that what drain manhole B is now? Where that catch basin is?
Yes.
Okay, so should you put catch basin B on the curb line instead of in the middle of a parking space?
Yeah.
Something to think about.
I think we can move that over.
Okay. And then parking lot lights are what? P2? What is P2?
Yeah, so that was included in the lighting.
Oh, I'm sure it was. I'm sorry, I was catching up. I was away. Is there a lighting plan somewhere? Parking plan?
Yeah, on the last sheet is
Last
the
sheet. Okay.
photometric plan. And then there should be spec sheets on that.
It's not on the photometric plan. So you're showing light spillage over the property line? So you need to rectify that with a shield on the backside of the light fixture?
Okay, we can add that.
And then where are the light, where's the light pole specified? Haven't found it yet.
On the photometric plan, there's a chart in the bottom left.
Chart, bottom left. Okay, so there's no,
Doesn't seem to be on there.
Peter,
tell you
can you,
what the-
can you scroll down on that plan?
Yeah.
Yeah,
There it is.
but we can add more specifics to that.
Yeah, what exactly it is.
And that the spec sheet was included too, so we could go through that. But we'll clarify that.
What color,
make sure there's-
temperature are the lights, what height are they mounted? Is that the side of the street that has wires on it?
Yes.
Okay, so are you a safe distance from the wires?
I believe so.
Because those lights are going right on the right-of-way line, so
I think the lines are probably almost 8 feet away.
10 feet is the minimum.
Okay, well, we'll measure it for you.
Okay.
We'll make sure.
Okay,
Make sure we hit the minimum.
all right. Remember, minimum specified is maximum provided, right?
Okay, perfect.
So, you know, I guess you can get free electricity that way. Boy,
I'll be calling you if I have any questions.
only on rainy nights, though.
Any other comments from TAC?
Yeah. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Utilities, yeah.
Yeah, they're right in the same path. You need to look at that somehow. Rectify the situation.
You all set, Dave, for now?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Any public comment for this application? On here or on Zoom? So we'll close that portion. What does everyone think about this?
Maybe a good idea is for Steph to run through all the additional comments and see where you land. Steph, I'll let you go ahead. There's some outstanding comments that I think are still standing, and there's some from the ones that you received last night, and then I think some new comments.
Yeah, so the comments that we provided, 1 through 8, the ones that included additional calculations are 1 and 5. Or so 1 is calculations, 5 is regarding the cistern. Are those items, Zach and Dave, that you guys will want to review prior to releasing from TAC? They can be reviewed before planning board by you guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
6 was a planning comment, and I'm comfortable with that being a precedent to the planning board.
Okay. All right, and then the additional comments were plantings in the right-of-way need to be approved by Trees and Greenery. Grading plans show a reduction in grade behind the building. Is that something that you guys are going to fix, or how is that going to be changed on the plans?
We could adjust that and submit that to Dave. I think it's a pretty minor adjustment, just moving that one contour.
Okay.
That could be a condition.
Adjusted, so the grading plans will be adjusted and reviewed by DPW, reviewed and approved. Okay, light, correct me if I understood this wrong, right, light poles will be at least 10 feet from the power lines? Does that sound right? Okay. Show outfall structure on plan.
Just continue that thought that the light, detail of the light should be added to the plan,
Okay.
including light temperature, light mounting height, final approval. Please.
Okay, so including, I'm sorry,
Light temperature.
temp,
Mounting
and
height.
mounting height.
We can verify that. I know the cut sheets are in one of the 400 pages.
And then if the lights are right on the right-of-way line, they need the shielding so that the light's not spilling into the road.
okay, I'm gonna say for DPW review and approval, and if that is needed, then I'll leave it up to you guys.
That's good.
The outfall structure, is there a number on that outfall structure, or is it the only outfall structure on the plan?
Just call it outfall structure.
Just call it an outfall structure, okay.
Needs to be shown.
show how fall structure on the plan.
All right. The details to the photometric plan, was that covered by the last comment about the temperature and mounting height?
Was.
Okay. And I'm sorry, Zach, I missed the drain manhole B. Did that need to be moved?
It was catch basin B,
Catch
probably has a
basin.
note that it is the jellyfish, and then there was another comment about moving it
To the curb.
Out of the
to the
parking
curb
lot.
line.
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry, can you, what needs to happen to catch basin B?
Move it to the curb line.
Okay,
And a note added.
And add the jellyfish with it.
and it needs a jellyfish filter?
Well, it is one, but
Okay.
it's not well defined.
Okay,
It's just
so this
buried in the
needs to be
details.
labeled.
Steph, could you also add a note that the drainage easement has to be dedicated to the city of Portsmouth and accepted, dedicated and accepted by the city of Portsmouth?
Yes.
The access, the easement deed will be drafted up and submitted to the legal department for review.
We've made that like a standard stipulation now.
And then the shields to the light fixtures, that's
Mhm.
gonna be reviewed by you guys in that prior comment, correct?
Needs to have a shield, if the poles stay in the same spot, yes.
Okay.
We have catch basin A, it's gonna be a manhole, yeah.
I have
Yes.
provide manhole at catch basin A location, is that the comment?
Yep, that was under comment 2.
Mhm.
Right.
And the jellyfish is gonna be removed from that because it's switching to the manhole.
I don't think it had one to begin with.
Okay. No. All right.
And the loam in the planting aisles, in the planting beds.
I also have add a state detail to the sewer manhole to the plan, a detail of the
State standard
manhole,
manhole
a state
detail.
standard detail.
Yep. Yeah, and so 1 and 5, you guys, I'll add that it's for DPW review and approval. Regarding the, treatment swale and the cistern.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yes.
All of them, Steph?
That's it?
So it's quite a few. Do you want to move it along and just have them coordinate with you? They have a submission right now pending notification, and so we would need these to be turned around very quickly, because there's quite a few comments. I don't want to take all these comments to the planning board. They won't.
In general, they're minor. They're
Okay.
just nitpicky stuff.
So I think all these comments, except for I think some of the easement comments, need to be satisfied prior to the planning board. So I would say we can send you out the letter. Hopefully you took some good notes and we'll get your letter of decision out, but we need that to be turned around pretty quickly. I would say we want plans no later than, Steph, updated plans.
In order to have DPW review them, we would want them by Monday.
Okay.
Is that doable?
We'll get it
Yes.
done.
All right.
And then, yeah, because I think packets go out, I think the following Friday, and we just need to have confirmation and then we get a quick turnaround on that.
I appreciate that, and we'll
So-
definitely make it happen.
Okay, no, planning board's has not been very, they're not usually, they don't appreciate postponements because it helps them, they just prefer to know if it's gonna be on there or not, so we need to get that turned around. So we're gonna go ahead and publish it and get it on the agenda.
Great.
Well, we need to vote on it first.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that.
Make a motion to recommend?
Second. Second from Nick, motion from Zach.
With all those
With all those stipulations?
Yes,
Yep.
with the stated stipulations.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And you guys, this doesn't go on the record, but just so you know, you probably know this, but if you submit your building permit application before January 1st, you can choose the 2015 codes or the 18 codes. okay? You can't mix them up, one or the other.
They'll definitely want to get those in.
But I think the 18's not bad. There's some good things they realized in 15 they didn't need, so take a look at it and see what you think.
Thank you.
So, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, yeah. We'll get it done, and we appreciate the help.
Turn around very good.
I want another continuance.
Yeah, we're gonna continue it
I probably
again.
got a good chocolate today. We gotta give him some.
Willy Wonka.
We got one more here for you. Take care.
There you go, thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, appreciate it.
All right. On to new business, finally. The request of Christopher H. Garrett Revocable Trust of 2007, owner and applicant for property located at 1299 Islington Street, requesting preliminary and final subdivision approval to subdivide one existing lot with 27,366 square feet of area and 199.33 feet of street frontage into two lots as follows. Proposed Lot 1 with 15,000 square feet of lot area and 100 feet of street frontage, and proposed Lot 2 with 12,366 square feet of lot area and 99.33 feet of street frontage. Said property is located on Assessor Map 233, Lot 119, and lies within the Single Residence B District. Go ahead, Alex.
Hello, everyone, again. So if the board recalls, at the last meeting, there were just some minor comments. We could go through those now, how the plans have changed. If we go to the subdivision plan, we have added the correct lot number to these parcels. So I did talk to the assessor, Scott, and he gave me these numbers. He also said that he would give us the correct mailing address after approval. And if we can go to the site plan. There was a comment at the last meeting about a foundation drain. Where would the foundation drain be? How would that work? So in the back left of the parcel, we have shown a foundation drain with a stoned outlet protection area. Also, at the last meeting, Nick brought up a good point about the front setbacks. You can average the abutting parcels. So we shifted that front setback, and we shifted the house a little closer to the street, so we have a bigger backyard. Also, there was a comment about the soils and the test pits. Originally, we had done test pits 1 and 2, which is on the left side. Now we've added test pits 3 and 4 to the rear of the parcel. And again, that was pretty good soil, and that would be fine for a leach field. The test pit data was added to the site plan. And then I'd like to go through the comments we just got last night. The first comment is, please state how the proposed septic system meets the requirements. So we have been in contact with DES, and this is kind of an unusual setup in that it's a small parcel. The city provides water and sewer to a lot of surrounding lots, but this is kind of the breaking point at Islington Street, whereas you head west, the city does not provide sewer. So DES is open to that, the fact that we do need a waiver, minimum lot size, those kinds of items. They're aware of that, and the thought is, as we progress in this process, we go to planning board. If and when we receive subdivision approval, then we would go to the state, submit a septic plan, and seek their approval. The second item there is foundation drain must daylight into a stormwater detention area. Daylighted drain must be sufficient distance from proposed leach field. So I think at our last TAC meeting, Zach wanted to know where the foundation drain would daylight. So we've added that. We've added the stone protection area. As far as I know, it's not a state or a city requirement that the foundation drain go to a stormwater detention area. But if, for some reason that's a concern, we can look into that or have a rain garden back there. The state has kind of a gradation of permeability for soils, and it runs 2 to 60, where 2 is the best soil you can get, and this soil ranges about 4 to 6. So it's really good soil out there. All these surrounding lots, the natural grade is from Islington Street to the rear of the property to an abandoned railroad track, which I guess is turned into a rail trail kind of setup. When this project went to ZBA, all the direct abutters had no concerns, and they actually signed a document recommending approval. So I don't think drainage is an issue, but we can review that with DPW if more is required. The state does have a setback from a foundation drain to a septic tank to a leach field, and we meet that on this plan. But of course, the state would review our septic plan if that is submitted, and that would, that'd be on their checklist of all their setbacks from foundation drains, from house, from structure, everything. And that gets into the next comment, demonstrate with stormwater calculations that stormwater flow to adjoining properties will not be increased post-construction. So I know at the last meeting, drainage really wasn't a concern. The concern was where's the foundation drain? But it seems like it's more of a concern now. So I guess one thing to keep in mind is, what we've shown here is a possible house size configuration, driveway, leach field. And that may change. So I guess I would offer, if DPW or if the board thinks the drainage is an issue, it could be made a condition prior to building permit.
So I don't think it's an issue, but I think you could probably rectify anybody's issues. I agree with you, the soil is very good. So if you did some kind of longitudinal stone drain along the rear property line, that could just infiltrate that water.
Infiltration trench at the
So
rear.
that's not running off into the rail trail, that's actually infiltrating into all this great soil that we have. That's downhill from the leach field, so as long as you maintain your proper separation from the leach bed, that would work. So as long as everybody's okay with that, that would probably take care of it. And just put some gutters on the backside and capture that water, put it with the foundation drain and the backside, and that probably will solve all your problems.
Sure. Next item is the owner authorization form is needed. And we actually submitted that on July 5th with the submittal. I think we needed to resubmit it, so we did submit it today.
I saw that, yep.
It should be in there. The next comment, is there an existing easement for the sewer line across the neighboring property? So the existing house, and this is from the city, plan appears to have a sewer line that just cuts off the corner of the neighbor's property. The longtime owners of this house don't believe that's the correct location. Of course, we want to have it scoped and located, and we're going to do that.
Okay.
Currently,
That's totally fine.
yeah, and currently, there is no easement, so, but we can look into that.
Okay.
And then the next item, I think I already addressed, the map and lot number we do show on the plan. And if and when this gets final approval, the assessor will give us the mailing addresses.
So you're saying those are the correct ones interim given to you by the assessor, or?
Yes.
Okay.
I can upload an email from him if that's helpful. The next item is please list all state and federal permits needed for this project. So on the subdivision plan, on note 3, we have a note, lot 119-1 will be served by city water and a state-approved septic system. A state subdivision approval for lot 2 is required. Then also down on note 7, all necessary state and city permits must be obtained, including but not limited to state septic permit, building permit, and driveway permit.
Have you looked at the driveway permit yet? Have you assured that there's no vegetation in the way in the adjacent house? It's gonna interfere with sight distance?
So I think some of the vegetation will have to be clipped back in the right-of-way. And we have surveyed up and down the street, and we can provide that profile in the driveway permit. We've not submitted it yet.
Okay. If you are planning on cutting vegetation in front of somebody else's house, you should show it on this plan. That way it's public record.
What was that?
If they're cutting vegetation in front of someone else's.
That's somebody else's property, okay.
It's in the right of way, it's in front of somebody else's house. A, if it's anything of size, it needs to go to Trees and Greenery, and they have to approve the removal.
In the right-of-way, is that, yeah.
What's the minimum size? Caliper.
I'm not sure, it's
No.
either 4 or 6 inches.
Yeah.
Anything bigger than that
We'll have to go.
has to get approval, so.
Approval just if it's not.
Right. Yeah, so currently on our site plan, note 6, we have clear vegetation in right-of-way and along front of property for clear sight lines, but we can add.
Right, I'm talking about Marino's property. I'm not sure what's there. I'm not trying to say that there's anything there.
Yeah.
I'm just saying if there is something there and you're cutting it, you.
There's a large tree that shows up in one of your site pictures.
Mhm.
Is that on, it looks like it's right about where the property corner is of the subdivision line.
I think it's pretty close to that sideline, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if that was in the right of way, then that would need Trees and Greenery approval too. If that's,
Yeah, I think that's on the property, but I can add that to the
Don't
plan.
think,
so
be
it's
sure.
clear.
yeah,
Yes.
add it to the plan, and, yep.
All right,
Yeah, it's this tree right here.
point made.
Is it, I'm just making sure, that, is it two things? Is it tree removal in the right-of-way shall be approved by Trees and Greenery, and then tree removal on adjacent private property? Is that what you're saying?
In front of
It,
adjacent.
In
it
front of
just should be
adjacent?
shown on the plan if you're gonna remove it.
So any trees,
Yeah.
anything removed in the right of way.
Just needs to go Trees and Greenery, but you're also asking that they also,
Show it on this plan.
just needs to go Trees and Greenery, but you're also asking that they also
Show it on this plan.
show it on the plan.
Yes.
But you also, did you say you also wanted to let the neighbor know? Did you say that too, or?
I'm just saying, if you're cutting a tree in front of somebody's house, it should be on the plan.
Yeah, of course, okay.
Up here, too.
not saying that's the case, I'm just saying, might be the case.
All right, we'll open the public comment. No one on Zoom.
Pretty quiet today.
I will close that portion. You want to go through the list, or what do you think?
I do have some questions. So it sounds like regarding comment 1, you have been in contact with DES. So should this move forward without any sort of approval from DES, we'd need a waiver request for that stipulation, or for that criteria in the subdivision regulations.
Okay.
Because the planning board cannot approve a lot without adequate, waste disposal. So that would be a waiver request, and then you just have to explain the reason. 2, it sounds like was, fine with the daylighted drain as listed on the plan, right?
With the stone infiltration trench longitudinally placed along the property line.
Okay.
Compliance with all NHDES subsurface rules.
Okay, if that were to be a stipulation, how would you like that worded?
Just like I said.
I word it this way: add infiltration trench downhill from the leach field and appropriate foundation drains to address runoff. I didn't get that last standard that you want them to make sure they observe. What was it?
NHDES subsurface rules.
Got it?
And that encompasses comment 3, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
I mean, there's gonna be so little runoff, it's crazy, but, there's one final statement, I guess, is that you have rock at 3 feet on the front of this house. So, and the rock up here is very hard. It's real. So, if you're blasting of any kind, we'll probably, might even for hole ramming, have to require vibration monitoring on the historic powder house across the street. It's hundreds of years old and very delicate. And
Okay.
it's also sitting on the rock that you'll be hammering.
So vibration
So
bottom,
you just, if you have to remove rock, we have to do it in such a way that it's
and that
delicate.
that doesn't matter.
Delicate rock removal.
If a ram hoe or blasting, we need to monitor.
Yeah, sometimes hole rams, if they're big enough, actually create more vibration than blasting,
Okay.
so.
I added that any blasting will require vibration monitoring to ensure no damage to surrounding historic properties.
Mm-hmm. Okay. For the sewer line, you guys are gonna have it scoped and mapped for DPW review and approval?
Yep.
Sounds like you've already been in contact with the assessor. Regarding comment 7 about state and federal permits, it's on the plan, but would you mind changing the note from lot 2 to whatever the map lot, the assigned map lot number is?
Sure.
Okay. And then the vegetation removal, the blasting were the only additional ones that I had.
And Alex, off the record, the assumed benchmark thing is fine for a residential lot, but like on that previous subdivision, that previous approval we just did, because we require the as-built on all commercial properties, you really should just start your plans in the right benchmark system, because other than that, you have to be all translated over after the fact.
All right, any other stipulations?
So this item, similar to the previous item, they have requested planning board consideration for the next planning board meeting. And I say that because it means that we, not only do we need to get those plans back by no later than Monday, but we also need to turn them around on the staff level. So I think that I look to staff to tell me if that's going to be possible to review and approve those before next Friday when we have to get packets out. So similar to the last one, they'd like to go to the next planning board. So we need, again, we would need updated with all the comments. Hopefully you took good notes, get the letter of decision out though. And then we would need that to be turned around. And then I also need, if this committee chooses to move this forward, so I don't jump the gun on that, that we also understand what they're seeking and whether we feel like we can do that review in time.
Can I add one more thing? A letter addressing the comments and how they've been resolved.
Sure.
Makes that review move a lot quicker.
Yes.
That goes so much.
Simplifies things on our end.
And when will your letter come out?
Tomorrow. It should come out tomorrow.
Okay.
Thursday if there's any holdups, but our goal is tomorrow.
Yeah. Alex, on both the submittals, that letter really does help the review go
Yeah.
quicker. We are able to move it, find it and move it quicker.
Move to approve, stated stipulations.
All right, motion by Pratt, second by Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Can I take this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't, these are square.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
All these are, I think.
Okay.
Second?
Yeah.
All right,
I
we're
tried to,
adjourned.
as we refresh.